It's about putting yourself in a different frame of light. It's about people looking at you and saying, well, wait a minute. If they're a help to me for all of this for no cost, how much more would they be of help to me if I actually engaged with them? And so that's how I define authority marketing is actually putting yourself in a position where people find value in a relationship with you that they've never met you. And so you become their source, and that puts you in the position where when it's time to actually engage somebody, then of course, know, like, trust, they're ready to trust you.
Authority content. It's a word we hear a lot. We know we should be creating it, but what exactly is it? How do we create it? And why is it useful for our personal brands? Well, these are important questions we need to answer, which is why I have on today Dennis Meador. Dennis Meador is the CEO of the Legal Podcast Network, where he helps his clients create authority content that drives more leads and sales into their businesses. Today, we're chatting with Dennis about authority content creation, how to repurpose it and use it for our socials, and learning a little bit about his backstory and how he got into the space. So, Dennis, welcome to the show.
Very good to be here. Appreciate you allowing me the opportunity to spend some time with you.
For sure. And I know, just a little backstory, Dennis has been traveling a bit, which maybe you can talk about if you want. But so he's a trooper he's traveling overseas, getting in late nights. And so he's a trooper for sticking with us today. So with that, today we want to talk about creating long form authority content, how we can then repurpose that in other channels. But let's start with the concept of authority content. I know sometimes people who want to start into personal brands kind of get weary of the word authority. They don't want to be looked at like an authority, or if it's too snobby of a word. So how are you defining authority content?
Well, I think first of all, I happen to work in a niche that is very much about having the most authority. I work with obviously the Legal Podcast Network. I work with the legal community, primarily attorneys, but also those that serve them. And I tell my clients, because the legal industry specifically, and probably most any industry, it's consolidating. There's bigger and bigger and bigger players, and then you kind of have the rest. And I always tell them, you've only really got two ways to compete with these big brands. One, you can outspend them, which we know is not really an option for 99% of, 99 point whatever percent of the brands out there. Or you can outposition them. And that's what authority marketing is about. It's about putting yourself in a different frame of light. It's about people looking at you and saying, well, wait a minute. If they're a help to me for all of this for no cost, how much more would they be of help to me if I actually engaged with them? And so that's how I define authority marketing is actually putting yourself in a position where people find value in a relationship with you that they've never met you. And so you become their source, and that puts you in the position where when it's time to actually engage somebody, then of course, know, like, trust, they're ready to trust you.
Sure. So for people who are on the fence about, do I really need this authority content stuff? What's the penalty? What's the fearful outcome that can happen if you're not investing into authority content?
Commoditization. And especially if you're a knowledge worker, like an attorney, like a mortgage, like a insurance, people don't hire you because you're the only person that has what they want, right? Like if I need legal advice, I can go to ChatGPT. I can go to LegalZoom. I can go to, I can do some prepaid legal thing. There's a lot of lower cost alternatives, and you can, again, take that across any professional industry. When you allow yourself to be commoditized, then the only differentiator between you and your competition is priced. I've worked with attorneys for over 20 years. It used to be 10, 15 years ago, and we're still in the internet age, but we weren't really living in the internet like we do now, right? I mean, here we are with with the podcast, talking, never met in real life. Like, 10, 15 years ago, it was just like the internet was seen as a supplement. But, even 10, 15 years ago, people would come into, they would, if they didn't position themselves with their clientele, you know, they essentially, like, I would see them making 350, 400, 425 an hour. And they'd be like, I think I have a website, you know, I mean, and that was it. They could do that. Now, if they're just another name on Google, or they're just another name on another directory, when you can name any various directories out there, the first question that people ask when they go down that is, well, how much do you cost? What's your rate? So you've commoditized yourself. And now I talk to those same exact attorneys that 10 years ago were getting $450 an hour. They're now getting $325 an hour. And they're making less and less, unless they're contingency-based attorneys, they're making less and less money because they don't see the importance of monetizing their expertise, not in the sense of creating videos that get billions of views and they get checks from YouTube, but the real monetization that happens, which is the expertise, the positioning, so that when people call you, they're like, wow, I want to work with this person because they're so smart. They've answered all these questions that are very specific to my situation. They know how to help me. And that's what people want to feel. Because when they go to these big conglomerate sort of websites, it's just like, enter your problem. Okay, you have 3 choices now. People feel like, well, I don't know that that's really going to work for me. But when someone speaks directly to them and then answers their exact questions, then that puts them in a space where they're like, that's who I want. That's the person I want to work with. They can help me.
Yeah, I think that the key point there too that you're making is you can charge more, or at least have confidence in the high price that you're currently charging when you demonstrate your expertise. This is allowing people to get pre-sold, persuaded into your offers that are then the way that you're demonstrating them are unique to you and potentially the industry. So that when people are browsing options, they see, like, as you mentioned, commoditized service 1, 2, 3, they're just seeing the same cookie cutter solutions. But when they see this customized, unique strategy that you have that has shown results time and time again, then this is something different. They can bucket services in their head that go, okay, competitor 1, 2, and 3, they're all around X thousands of dollars. But now you're demonstrating a unique method here that is different than your competitors. They can't attach a price tag to that, but they see it works, right? So when they come to you and you say, oh, well, this way that I do things is actually twice my competitor's rate, but it's because I do it this way and not the templated way that they do it, it helps with that sales process, right? Because then they're like, all right, well, this is, I can't associate this with something I already know, so it must be better, essentially. So I love that. So let's get into your story. So right now, kind of the end result here is you're driving this thriving business, helping the legal industry create this authority content to attract new business. But let's go back to day one. How did you kind of get into the digital media, digital marketing space?
I mean, what's day one, right? I've been an entrepreneur, honestly, since I was like 14 years old. I created my first business. And it was just kind of like, most of life has just come from observance, right? You just kind of look around and you're like, why isn't anybody doing it this way? Or why is everybody afraid of this? I'm not afraid of it, so I could just step into it. So, 14, I went out with I had a friend that told me, I grew up in the Midwest, snow. And so I had a friend that told me, hey, you can make a ton of money going out and shoveling walks. He had made like $100 in a day, which, at that time was like, wow, a lot of money. And so I got my little brother and his best friend, and I said, well, let's go try this. So we got our shovels, we went out, and we were taking turns knocking on doors. And after we had done we had been doing it like 2 hours, and we had gotten like 2 jobs, and both of them were people that I had knocked on the door. But we would just like my brother would knock until he get a job, and then I would go, oh, I'll take over or whatever. So finally I ended up going, and I said, hey guys, I was like, I'll get this one, because neither of them wanted to get it. It was supposed to be one of their turn. And I go up, the lady's like, yeah, $20. And she handed me a 10 and 2 5s. And she said, do the walk here and down this way. And I was like, okay. So I hand my brother 5, I hand his best friend 5, and I said, here's what we're going to do, guys. I said, you guys shovel this. I'm going to keep knocking on the doors and get the next job. That way we don't spend so much time between jobs. And they were like, oh, yeah, that's cool. So then I did that. I started knocking on doors. I started getting customers. And then I did that. So we did that with the snow shoveling. Then I did that with the lawn mowing jobs in the neighborhood. Then I did that with the paper routes. And I owned all the paper routes. I collected all the money. I was the face. And then I had just this like troop of like younger, like my brother's about a year and a half, 2 years younger than me. Just younger guys that were going out and doing all the work. And they loved it because they didn't have to interact with the people and ask for money. And, they were nervous and didn't bother me to ask people for money. So that's what got me into becoming, a business owner, an entrepreneur. Then I got into the marketing space while I was in college for theology. And I took a job at like this telemarketing firm and did pretty well there. And they ended up putting me into commercial where we were calling and selling ads in magazines. I ended up managing the division. I'm like 19, 20 years old, managing like guys my age now. I'm 47. And ended up taking the department from like a 50% increase in 2 months. And, just really enjoyed it. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of money in this marketing thing. And so I kind of got into marketing, and then around about 2003, that's when I ended up in the digital space. I just saw it coming. I was just like, this internet stuff is too cool. We're getting away from dial-up. We were starting to get like faster speeds. So like, I was just like, I saw it coming. And I was just like, I went full on digital from like 2003 on, and ended up working with a company that was selling to attorneys, kind of a competitor to a big player called Legal Match, which has been around forever. And so that put me on like kind of working with attorneys and in the digital marketing space. Throughout the years, I've had different things that I've done: SEO, my own agency. I've had social media agencies, and I always ended up being like having a unique ability to monetize social media in an alternative way that grew very fast. Like I grew like a Facebook page in like 2010 to 2013, or beginning of 2014, that just like, we own this community. We called it Media Social. We had 15 volunteers, and each one only posted about something they were specifically passionate about. And so like for them, they were like, I've got this huge audience, and they're going to hear about like the lost dogs or the moms groups or whatever it is that they were passionate about. And so I created this community, and I think it's the same with this. Like everyone's like I'll have attorneys come to me and they'll be like, well, what about the monetization of this podcasting? And I'm like, well, first of all, you just read 2 articles. You don't even know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, or they'll say, well, how do we create a viral video? And I'll be like, well, listen, if you just want to be viral, get, 5 million views and make a couple of grand just so you can say you had a viral video, I'm probably not your guy. Or, we could put you on a unicycle, have you juggling law books, and you can just go off the end of a pier and say you'll do anything for people's business. I mean, like if that's what you want. But if you want to use media to your advantage, and use content to your advantage to position yourself, to ingratiate yourself with potential clients, to assuage fears, to have them coming to you already wanting to work with you, not saying how much are you, but how much is it going to cost me to be able to work with you? Which, though it sounds similar, is a very different question. That's how I ended up with where I'm at. It's just kind of saying, these attorneys, they need content. They don't have time. So how do we take their time and maximize it? How do we take who they are offline? Because before the pandemic, every attorney would say, well, as long as you can get them to sit in front of me, I'm going to convert them 90% of the time, blah, blah, blah. Then the pandemic happened, and now no one wants to sit in front of them. And so they're just sitting in their office like, what do I do now? And so then we call them up, hey, we can do this podcast. We can take that podcast and we can turn it into marketing pieces, and we can spread it across all these different things. We can create content for your website. So you give us an hour of your time a month, every 2 months, every 4 months. We can create awesome content for you, and that really sets you apart and brings in ideal clients.
Hey, Blueprint fam, if you're enjoying today's episode and finding my guest insights valuable, then you'll definitely want to subscribe to the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast, as we drop weekly guest interview episodes just like this one. And on that note, you obviously also see firsthand how powerful being an effective guest like the one you're watching on this episode right now, can be at attracting qualified, interested leads directly into your sales funnel. But I know what you're thinking. You want to get into guest podcasting, but starting feels confusing and overwhelming. What equipment do you need? And how do you look and sound great? And how do you turn listeners into leads? I know this because so many of my guests had these exact problems in the past. And that is why I created the Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint. It's a simple but powerful breakdown on everything you need to look, sound, and convert great as a podcast guest. Everything from how to set up your recording area to what equipment you need to look and sound great on camera, and what to say on podcasts to stand out, be memorable, and earn the audience's trust. And then that one key strategy to turn listeners into leads. I'm telling you, this isn't just another checklist. This is a step-by-step blueprint to make sure you look, sound, and present your best on podcasts so you can convert that attention into leads and ultimately new business. I honestly was thinking about selling this for like $97, but I'd rather give access to this guide to my personal brand blueprint podcast audience for free. So if you are ready to become a sought-after podcast guest and use it to generate leads and build your personal brand, and grab your copy of Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint at davepoly.com/podguestblueprint. You can find the link to that in the show notes below. Again, that's davepoly.com/podguestblueprint, and start turning podcast interviews into business. Again, it's completely free for being a loyal listener, so definitely check it out. Cool? All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah. So you started working with attorneys, we said back in around 2003?
Yeah, so about 22 years.
And what were you doing at that time with attorneys?
So at that time, the company I was working with, like I said, was a competitor to Legal Match. And so essentially all they did, and this is where things started kind of going off bells for me, is they would like go into a market like Atlanta, and then they would just start like buying up Yahoo ads for like not much at the time. And so I would like call up PI attorneys, personal injury attorneys, and I would say, hey, you could be on our rotation. Click or type in, Atlanta car accident lawyer. You see that top one right there, that top result, that's us. So what we'll do is for $5,000 a month, you could be one of 3 attorneys on a rotation that when people type in that term and click on our site and fill out our form, we have attorneys we have house attorneys that will pre-vet the case to make sure there's a case. Then we'll send it to you. And so that's what we were doing, just basically kind of being an intermediary between PPC, like PPC and, PI attorneys for the most part. We did other stuff, but that's where the money was at the time.
Yeah.
During that time when you were interfacing with attorneys, was there just commonalities of how they were trying to get new leads? I mean, were they even thinking about content at this time?
No, they weren't thinking about content. And I mean, content is really, to the legal industry, just really become a reality since the pandemic. Honestly, it's a very slow moving industry. You don't call them and say, hey, I got this cutting edge thing. They're just like, well, who do I know that does it and does well and blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, I just said cutting edge, so like unless they're younger. And I mean, obviously that's more and more of the group. But now even the younger generation, they're just like, I don't have time to be a full-time media marketer for myself. But yet I can't afford a decent one in-house. I can't afford the big houses that are charging, $8,000, $10,000. So we try to hit that sweet spot of like, our clients have like 1 to 10 people in the office. And so we just try to stack that. They weren't really looking at it. Their thought was, maybe they were buying leads. Maybe they were trying like Legal Match. It was kind of a newer concept to get to them it's like, I do the yellow pages. And then so like for my first 5 years of my career, it was just like, how is this better than the yellow pages? And then the next 5 years was just reminiscing over the yellow pages. Well, it used to be with the yellow pages and now I don't even know. And it's just like, yeah, I know. I've been telling you this for years. Like we've talked 4 times in the last 5 years through different projects or whatever. Like, listen, dude, like you've got to get on the internet.
Right. So what it sounds like, not to maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the legal industry somewhat antiquated in some of the marketing strategies that are effective. Typically, I think that maybe just goes for ads and maybe even still, harping on the yellow pages days.
So what was that like saying, okay, I know there's an effective way called content marketing, authority content, podcasting, repurposing content that will work for the attorney market, but then trying to like penetrate that market. What was the early conversations like in trying to get those first clients?
Well, I mean, we just launched within the last year. So right now, the attorneys are being told at all of their like conferences and all of their whatever, you should have a podcast. You should have a podcast. You should be doing content. So like, I mean, we do cold outreach and it just keeps us like so busy. And then like with our own internal content, it's just been like, it just goes crazy. So like I've been gone the last month and I just took a guy that had been didn't really have a big history in closing deals with attorneys. And I mean, this month he's brought on a dozen clients already. And, I had internally like set a goal for him in my head of like 6, I'd be happy because I'd worked with other people. I've worked for years in this space. So like coming into this space new, you don't want to set your expectations too high for people or you get disappointed in them or they get disappointed and you lose good people. Yeah. So I was like, man, if he can get like 6, this is going to be good. He's already got like a dozen because it's just like, they just come out of the woodwork. We just literally asked them one question. Have you thought about having a podcast? And they're just like, yeah, I have. I've been talking about it and I just don't know what to do. And what do I do? And then we're just like, well, let's meet 20 minutes. Yeah, that sounds great. And then we close at like 70 something %. Like we literally have to, like, I have about 30 people in my company. I have myself and one salesperson closing all the business. And even myself, it's just been since I've removed myself that I have the other salesperson. And I'm trying to get my company ready for 2 people to actually sell the product because it's just like we keep growing and growing and growing. We're over 100 clients right now in just really since May 1st was when we kind of, in my mind, was the official launch. So really 7 months.
So for those of our audience who aren't lawyers, but can resonate with the story of, interested in this podcasting thing, or at least I'm interested in this long form content in some capacity to then grow authority, persuade my audience, repurpose this content. What are some of the, maybe closing these layers is a little bit, you don't have to say too much these days, but what are some of the benefits that you're saying on these sales calls that are really resonating with your clients of making it click as to why they need the podcast and what's making them opt in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the biggest things that really any business owner struggles with is time. So I think most everybody has accepted the fact they need to do these things. And like our easiest way to get clients is I just like send somebody off to build a list of people who have a legal podcast that's been dead for at least a year. And then we just call them up and we're like, hey, we do, if you give us X amount of your time every quarter, you could have a weekly show, a monthly show, twice a month show. This is what all it takes. So I think the biggest thing for them is that we can maximize their time and multiply the results with it. Because we take a half-hour shoot for one session because I tell them like 17 to 21 minutes is really all you need because the people listening to their podcasts are not other attorneys. It's not a trade thing like this. People, you could probably do 90-minute episodes and most of the people that are listening to your stuff, they're probably like going to eat it up with a spoon. But no one sits down and goes, man, I haven't listened to a good lawyer podcast lately, right? So we repurpose it. So we create a video podcast. We create an audio podcast. We put it on Podbean with every single outlet. Like I'm just like, we are outlet agnostic. And then we create shorts. And so like for every episode, we can create about 10 shorts. And then we just hook it all up and then we can distribute those shorts throughout all the different networks, Google Business Profile, both on Meta, LinkedIn, whatever. And so it's like, give me a half hour and that half hour creates not only a 20-minute episode, but it also creates 10 short pieces of content. It also creates 2 to 3 pages of site content. And we're adding a new bonus that we're getting ready to start kind of using as like some incentives to get people to show up to their podcast shoots. It's a challenge, I just had this come up. So we're doing what we call quick question editions, which are like 3 to 5-minute episodes, which is literally just one of the 7 to 10 questions we ask in the 20 minutes. We just take it, we cut it beginning to end and sell it as that question. And then we could put that on their website. So now we're repurposing for site content, where we've got written site content where we actually take the transcript and then put it in QA format. We've got video, short video, long podcast. We just got all of this stuff that we do, and it's like 20 minutes of their time. So that's the biggest thing, is they're like, wow, so I don't have to spend, and I just tell them, I'm like, listen, I was like, any 8-year-old can have a podcast. I was like, set up an iPhone, talk to the iPhone for 20 minutes and upload it to iTunes. Now you've got a podcast. But the big difference with us is our production team. Like one of my I feel like the most fortunate business owner in the world with who has decided to be on my team to start and has caught my vision very quick. Our main post-production guy has produced a Doritos Super Bowl commercial. He does production for the NFL, Major League Baseball, Honda. He's got this like laundry list of like he's a superstar. Our pre-production has both of them have like the ones that sit in on the podcast and make sure everything's going well. They have both like won awards in the podcasting industry. So I've got all of these. We also provide the host. So like my hosts, they all have like years of hosting experience and good podcast following. So I'm able to kind of like, I say it like this. I explain it like this. I say, like back in the day, you could have said, I have a TV show. Go watch it. And if I watched it and it was on public cable access with like bad lighting and like a curtain hung up behind you and you're on 2 rickety chairs talking about the law, people wouldn't be very impressed. But if you were on NBC at 8:30 at night, the local NBC channel at 8:30 at night, and in a studio with proper lighting and great camera and a professional host, same thing, but not really. And that's what we try to provide for our clients, is a high-end production value, high-end expertise each step of the way, so that it allows them to just come in and talk and be themselves. And I always say, I want to take who you are offline and put it online. Because if I can do that and you are who you say you are, then we can help you. And that's really what we're doing, is just transitioning this sort of like later Gen X, boomers, sort of, and even the younger generations that are saying, okay, I see the value in the time. That's what we're saving the most, is all of this time. Because if they did it at our level, as I said, we have 30, we're getting ready to hire 2 more people. We're going to have 32 people on the team with 1 person at a time selling the product. So usually when you have a company that big, 75% of them are selling the product, 25% of them are fulfilling it. We're like way flipping that around, and not even 75-25.
Sure.
And so that's the big selling point for us is production value and time saving.
So let's talk about the production value first. You mentioned there's kind of 3 core elements there: during the host, and then post-production. How do you think about pre-production in terms of like your methodology that helps make the actual recording the most successful for what ends up being published?
It's really just, on our end, we have our ducks in a row. It's really just working with the attorneys to make sure they understand the importance, because otherwise they're just like, I'll just use my iPhone, and I'll just throw in some AirPods. And it's like, yeah, you can do that, but it's going to degrade, I'll just use my laptop camera. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have bad angles. It's going to be an up angle, blah, blah, blah. So we teach them like the 4 things. And then the 4 things: lighting, microphone, camera, and then your background, what you see behind you. Like if you have those 4 things and they're done right, and we even give them like levels. We're like, level 1, like here's like buy a Blue Yeti. Like I think you have a Shure, right? Yeah, I was looking for one when I was in Thailand, because like I live in Belize on an island, and like getting stuff here is like insane. So like, I'll just show them. I'll be like, this microphone, like I bought an $80 open box. You can get it for like $100, $120 brand new, and it's a great mic. Your webcam can cost you like $100 Logitech. Internet doesn't really go above 1080 HD anyway. So like having a 4K camera, blah, 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 that's like nice. I shot a podcast in 4K in 2019, and those files are still sitting on a hard drive in one of my drawers because that 4K file is just, YouTube, it's just not there yet. And so I'm sure we will be with AI and compression and everything. But my point is, like, we kind of like, we try to make sure that they have good sound, good look, good background. And so 3 days ahead of time, we try to do what we call a tech check. And that's essentially where some people from my team do a show, like a little like show test for 5 minutes. What's your sound like? What's your background? And then we're like, hey, you need to go to Best Buy. Here's what you need to buy. Or, your background looks awful. You got green. I've worked with attorneys forever and been on Zoom with them for about 6 years now. So they're like infamous for having those like green legal file folders, like just stacked up behind them. Like literally, it's like, that's not a background, I don't know if they think it impresses people that they have so many files. I'm just like, I've been paperless. Yeah, I've been paperless for 15 years. Like, so just getting those little tweaks is really like the biggest key to making sure that they're successful.
How do you go into, because you host essentially the episode as well, and so there's that back and forth dialogue between the host and the attorney. Are you thinking about, all right, what questions do we want to ask? What do we want to cover on this episode? Is there like a strategy involved there?
Absolutely. So when we onboard, we find out about their jurisdictional profile, their client profile, and then their individual or brand profile. So are they high energy? Are they kind of like low key? Do we want to focus in on their expertise versus their personality? That sort of thing. But then with their ideal client profile, we actually build out a content plan. And so like if we find out, like we just brought on one attorney not long ago, and she only does high net worth dads for divorce, specifically if they have custody issues. And I'm just like, wow, that's very specific. Like, some people are like, I'm a family lawyer. I only do family law. I'm like, oh yeah? Let me tell you what this person does. So when we find that out, then we go in and, again, very fortunate, my content director has been interviewing attorneys for over 10 years. She did interview for SEO content, for like speak a book types of projects, and now for this. And so like she can go in and research their content, their questions, and we send them the questions at least a week ahead of time. We do what we call guardrails with collaborative opportunity. So we're like, we're going to do it this way unless you tell us different. And then if you're like, oh, can we switch this? Absolutely. Can we, if you're going to ask this question in my state, you need to ask this question. Oh, sure. Yeah, let's add that. So we collaborate with them ahead of time. So they know the questions, so they have a chance to prep. Usually if they're like contingency or they're like courtroom guys, they don't usually prep as much as like people that are more like people that are doing like paperwork sort of stuff. They're a little more nervous about just answering off the cuff. So yeah, that's how we kind of prep them, is we do an intake with them in onboarding, then we send them the questions ahead of time. And then because they know there's collaborative opportunities, we'll have attorneys call and say, hey, this law just got passed, immigration, Trump. Like all of our immigration attorneys were like, I need to get in. I need to answer this. I'm answering this question 20 times a day. We're like, let's get in. Let's go. Show up. Let's do this. So yeah, that's what we do to prepare them. It's just find out who their clients are, build the content plan towards it, and then ask the questions that we know that their clients would be asking. And then that helps with SEO. That helps because, we put it on YouTube, we put it on their website in written content, being careful never to duplicate the content verbatim anyway. And then we use that to kind of help their clout as well. So there's several advantages to having a great content plan, even just looking at the SEO side of it. Because I always tell them, I'm like, listen, custom content on a continual basis that keeps people on the page will always kill it in the algorithms. And that's been the same since the very beginning of internet time. I don't care what happens to the internet. I don't care what Hummingbird or Panda or whatever the last three, because I got out of SEO a while ago, updates are. I don't care what the updates are. The reality is that is what the internet wants. Custom content on a continual basis that keeps people on the page is always going to kill it in the algorithm.
Yeah, I love that. It's your goals for your content are always what the goals are of Google, which is
right.
Attract and hold attention, like any platform, right?
Can you walk us through maybe an example of an attorney who came to you, just absolutely no online presence, and then what you were able to put together for that person and kind of what their situation is now in terms of the content that they're putting out and their social presence and all that?
Sure. So, I mean, being content agnostic, we literally tell them whatever you want. If you don't have it, we'll build it for you. And because we have a machine that can feed the content and the algorithms, like, so we get a lot of people that come to us that are like I said, late Gen X, boomers, things like that. And like, they'll be like, I think I have a Facebook page and I have a website, and then they haven't posted for like 3 years because some lady that worked there used to post and he doesn't have time or she doesn't have time, whatever. We'll come in and we'll build out like every like Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok, but I tell them like, let's hold off till everything shakes out. I don't want you to invest too much time, but like, Blue Sky, Twitter, Twitter X, I guess, whatever. I mean, we have clients that are doing Pinterest now with the videos, and they're just like creating these Pinterest boards that are about like their subject. And so we'll build out anywhere from like 5 to 15 outlets. And what we've really noticed is the highly specialized attorneys are the ones that are coming to us and do very well with this. Like, we have a guy that does FDA imports. And he was like, listen, like, I know imports. I've done this forever. And with the new Trump and with all the, tariffs and blah, 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 this is going to be pretty tumultuous with all of this. So like, I want to get ahead of this. And like, I mean, we've had him for like 3 months and he's already like on LinkedIn, like couple thousand followers. And then he's like got thousands of and he's like super engaged and like, and I'm just like, from nowhere, you know what I mean? Like, literally he just said, hey, I know what I'm talking about. And everyone's like, what? So that's kind of like one of the stories that I've been excited to see, but we see it consistently. Like, our attorneys, like, we don't put in tracking numbers because what we've noticed and what our attorneys tell us and like our retention, the only people we've lost one person because they got bought out. And then I fired about 15% of my clients at the beginning of this year just because they weren't responsive. They didn't show up. It was like pulling teeth to get them to help themselves. So we just sent a disengaged letter. Hey, this isn't working, blah, blah, blah. But like, they'll call us and tell us like, oh, I know when I get clients from your program, because the first thing they say is, yeah, I was watching your YouTube channel, or I was watching, this video on Facebook, or I was watching on Instagram, I was watching it here, or I was doing, like, they will literally tell them the first thing. And they're like, so I know that this comes from you. And so like, our retention is very high, other than us having to get rid of clients that just don't respond well, which, by the way, the whatever 10, 15% that we got rid of, we've already replaced, in January. So for us, we're just like, no big deal, because you know how it is. You spend 80% of your time with 20% of your clients. Well, if you get rid of 20% of your clients, or whatever that percentage is, then you can double your client base, or even 4x it. I mean, theoretically. So
with that
constantly
note, so
shaving.
Content creation, you mentioned, like, it's difficult for an individual to find the time to create it. Strategy involved, the pre-production, recording, post-production, distribution, promotion of it. You've created the system to be able to do that at scale, and you're continuing to scale. What are some of the things that you're finding as you are bringing on more and more clients, the resources and tools that you're looking to invest into that are helping you streamline the creative process from strategy to post-production?
I mean, I think that is probably internally the biggest thing that has been our biggest growing pain. Because, we started out in spreadsheets, then we went to Monday. Now we're going to, I think it's called ClickUp. It might not be it. Does that sound familiar?
ClickUp is a project management tool. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to ClickUp. I just hired a lady that's basically coming in and helping us streamline, because I was trying to do it all myself. And I think probably our biggest challenge was just me being like, I'm a smart guy. I could figure it out. And, and I need to get hands-on with this side of the business. Like, I've always had a fulfillment partner. And then I've been the sales and like process development and product development person. And unfortunately, that has always been it has always ended up with my partner thinking that they didn't need me when I invented the product, the processes, and brought on all the clients. And I was just like, I'm not taking on a partner ever. Like I'd done it for 2 major projects in my career. The rest of the time, I just kept it small where I could just run it. But this is one that I really believe I can scale up to probably at least 8 figures. I really see the potential here. So for us, it's been, we're moving to ClickUp. Opus Pro we use to cut in, but it's like, we use like a lot of internal, like I just try to come up with like little quippy sayings to try to remind people like AI denies. So it's like, if you use AI, then you better be putting eyes on it and editing it and getting rid of, like, we have a bank of like words. And I'm like, do not allow the word demystify to be anywhere on our content. Do not allow the word delve into the, because you see it on all copy. So you're like, ChatGPT, that's AI created. A lot of AI tools are good, but they're just like, I kind of compare AI right now to when we started outsourcing, whatever it was, 15, 20 years ago. And it was like, we would outsource to India and outsource to the Philippines. And I have people all over the world, so I'm not against outsourcing. But then people would be like, oh, they got it. And then they would just like do their other thing. You have to have that like filter. And it's the same with AI. You have to like have that knowledgeable filter, human person that can humanize what's being done and being said. Even the best AI needs some editing. I mean, like I have like now specialty like content AIs that like I put in like 300 pieces of content. It was like, this is your exact voice. This is your exact this is, and I'm like, well, I almost cussed, but well, man, that's certainly like, yeah, that's my voice. Like that's what I'm trying to say. That's how I'm trying to come across because that's how I feel like I am. And so like we use AI tools and things like that, but it's always AI than eyes. And Opus Pro is definitely one of those ones. We feed it in like the 20-minute podcast, and then it cuts out like 15 or so clips, and then with those clips it'll add in like B-roll, but like the B-roll, it'll do like a bunch of B-roll from like the US, and so like everyone's got like head coverings and like and I'm just like, guys, like who's the audience here? Like, so pull that out, edit it. Now let's go back. Now look at it through, I always tell them, look at it through American eyes. And then they're just like, so I every piece of content, everything we do has somebody here in the States that sees it and approves it before it goes out. Because you just have to kind of layer so it's like AI, offshore, onshore, client.
The goal is to kind of get from 0 to 1 as quickly as possible using some automation, but then to get from 1 to 10, there's a human involved just to add that editorial oversight onto the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the big tools. Trying to think of what else. I mean, obviously just like you can learn to edit on your own, but honestly, there's just so many people out there that are good at it that will do it for whatever price you want to pay. And, depending on how much work goes.
I used to edit a lot of my own videos and I loved the process. I really love editing. I do web design too. So I just get lost in the like nitty gritty pixel perfectness of everything. And it's fun. But, while I'm editing a video, and it could take me hours sometimes for how in-depth I try to make my videos, I'm not building my business. I'm not selling. All right.
Exactly.
And how much impact is me editing my own videos providing value to the business versus if I was to just pass that off to someone else. So while we can enjoy the process, it's not something we should be focused on. It's not
exactly. I tell my team all the time, I'm like, listen, I want you spending 99% of your time doing the things that only you can do in the business. If everybody is doing the thing that only they can do, we will be wildly successful. It's when, yeah. And so like, that's why we have VAs in the Philippines, because they can, take care of a bunch of stuff that is just, and I'm just like, why are you doing that? And they're just like, well, I just thought it would be easier. And I'm like, how is it easier? Well, I have to teach them. I'm like, how long would it take you to teach them? Like 30 minutes, right? Yeah. How long are you spending doing this every week? 4 to 5 hours. So you're taking 15 to 20 hours a month of company time of your expertise that I hired you for. I hired you because you can do this, not that. Like, not make spreadsheets or, send templated emails or whatever it is. I hired you because you know content. I hire you because you are a great post-production. I want you to do what you do. Now, if you're going to come to me and tell me I'm bored, like I'm tired of doing just that, well, let's find something else that only you can do. But so that's what we all focus on. That's like me. Like I said, I thought I could just jump in and create processes because I can create sales processes. I've been doing it my whole career. Since I was literally 19, I've been creating scripting and sales processes. And I'm just like, how hard could client fulfillment processes be? And then I got into it and it was just like, okay, let me go hire somebody that knows what they're doing here, because I could probably like fight this crocodile, but like, let me go get like somebody who does it for a living, because I might not survive this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the growth like problem with owners. I mean, I tell attorneys all the time, I end up in more like a consultation for their business than really a pitch for my product. Is I'll be like, you realize like stage one of like business growth is being willing to delegate and let go. And if you have to do everything, you will come to a point where you will not make a dime more and probably start going backwards. And it's just like, so yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Love it. Well, this has been awesome. Today, we're learning about the importance of authority content, what we should be thinking about when going into it, how we should be thinking about what we're going to be talking about, some of the tools and resources and systems we should have in place to actually create it, streamline it. If there's any key major point that you want to make sure you put an exclamation mark on and leave our audience with today, what would that be?
Focus on doing the thing that only you can do for your business, what we just talked about. I think that if people zero in on that, whatever their business is, if they're a coach, if they're a creator, if they are some sort of professional in regards to like mortgage, insurance, whatever it is, like there's so many tools out there that it makes us think that anybody can do anything at any time. When the reality is everybody can do all the things, but it takes all your time. And so that's what I would leave with them. I can't put that on the cuff.
Yeah, that's great. It's a soundbite right there for me. I'll clip
there we
that
go.
All right, Dennis, this has been awesome. I appreciate you coming on today. And is there anything before we leave that people can go and find you or your business that you want to make sure you plug here?
Sure. I mean, if you're a connector and you just want to, be connected, LinkedIn, I do a lot on there, and more and more. LinkedIn, we didn't even talk about digital languages. That's my favorite subject to talk about. But but LinkedIn is one that I've really made a concerted effort to really start to get good at, and to engage people with. So just Dennis Meador, and the spelling's in this episode, wherever in the comments or in the whatever. But then our website is just the Ohio State University, right? TheLegalPodcastNetwork.com. So you can also look us up there, see some of our work, get a hold of us. We're getting ready to launch the 2.0 version of our product, which I'm super excited about. It's a whole nother, I'll probably talk about it on another podcast soon, but just super excited about it. And my team is like, well, what is it? And I'm like, don't worry. If what we're doing blows your mind, what we're going to do will just blow your head off your shoulders, completely. So, super excited about that. But yeah, LinkedIn and then our website, those are probably the two best ways. If you're an attorney, opt in. I send out a daily email that for attorneys that is just kind of like mind frame, how to run their practice, marketing, and we get a ton of our clients through that. Just emailing back, I ignore all of these, but I read yours every day, blah, 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 So, and most of that comes from just recorded meetings with me talking and then my team turning it into content, sending it to me editing it, putting it back out there. So, yeah, that's how they can reach me.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Dennis. And definitely everyone check out this 2.0 that's coming out, the latest version update. So, Dennis, I appreciate it.
I'm pushing the team for March, but more likely April. But yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Love it. I appreciate you being on today, Dennis. And if you're looking to grow your personal brand, make sure you subscribe to the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast. I'll see you on the next episode.
Today, we learned about my guest's origin story, unique methods, and credibility. If you want to see me break down how today's guest can use those tools within the personal brand blueprint strategy to attract, convince, and convert new qualified leads so you can do the same for your business, then check out this episode here. Or if you want to continue to hear more incredible personal branding origin stories and learn more valuable personal branding skills from my awesome guests, then check out the full playlist of interviews here.